Ooh.
Hello.
Sunday night.
Oh, that's right.
Sweaty, steamy Sunday night up here anyway. We're under a heat advisory.
What?
Yeah. Yeah. Hottest days of the summer.
All right then. Well, it's actually been feeling pretty nice down here. It's supposed to heat back up next week, but we've been
Mm.
in like the mid 80s here this week, so mid to upper 80s, I think. But I think we got the mid 90s coming back next week, so we'll see how it gets.
Well, we have we've got the weather today and tomorrow, and then tomorrow evening a cold front moves through, which is supposed to bring some plausibly nasty storms. We're talking a lot of wind, a lot of hail, so I'm going to be hoping nothing happens in my neck of the woods. But then after that,
Yeah.
it should chill out, and I get back out to the primary shop.
Yes, sir. All right. Well, hello everybody. Woodworker Gene, Napa, Ralph Strausser, Richard. One of your cats is needing you, Steve. Mark Patterson, Brad Ham, Roger Court, Brian Smith, Scott Johnson, Dwayne Aldridge, Tom Baker, Chris from the land down under, Al Wilkins. All right, Brian. It's good to see you in here, Brian. Uh, Mark, Napa, same thing, a little back and forth there. But yeah, good evening, everybody. It's been a long weekend, busy weekend here at the shack, and believe it or not, I actually got mostly caught up. Now it has about killed me, but I have gotten mostly caught up. And I would show you the pile of stove covers over there, but you can't see it on this camera. And I'm letting my CNC finish surfacing itself. I hadn't surfaced it since right after I first got it, so I decided to surface it a little bit today. So I'm knocking about a half a millimeter off of her, uh, getting it back flat like it's supposed to be.
I mean, if only a half a millimeter gets you clean, you're doing pretty good.
Yeah, well, it's there's a few little miscalculation marks on there.
Yeah.
You know how those are, but
Oh yeah.
but
I,
it, it
I've
gets
got
me
a
it gets me back flat.
I've got a nice quarter-inch deep circle in mine from a we'll call it a miscalculation.
Yeah, yeah. Mine somehow, I've got one that was like literally like a half a millimeter from cutting through one of the tracks in the
Hmm.
bottom of it. It was somehow, some way, somebody forgot to set the Z-axis, and man, that GD bit just went, and I'm talking like it went through it went instead of going down like 2 millimeters, I think it went down like 20. So it cut slap through whatever it was I was cutting, and almost took out one of my T tracks, but luckily it was just barely high enough. But
Well, most of those T tracks are made from aluminum, so
yeah,
uh, y- y- there are worse things to hit. But
yeah, I took a chunk out of the front of it early on, uh, but yeah, so far I haven't really damaged it majorly, but you know, it's got its share of little nicks and bruises. I think anybody who has a CNC or runs a CNC can acknowledge that it happens.
hmm yep, well, that's why they call it a wasteboard. Um, it's consumable. It's there to prevent you from digging into something worse. But
Yeah, I think it's about finished over there. So hopefully it won't. If it's too loud in the background, hopefully it won't be much longer.
yeah, well, I know how those goes. You're covering that whole board with what'd you say, like a 1 inch or inch and a quarter inch?
One and a half, but
Oh,
I
one
got
and a
fifty
half.
percent.
Okay.
Yeah, but I got 50% step over.
I was gonna say a lot of times you go even less than that, but yeah, it's flattening the spoil board. Just it's a needed maintenance thing. Just takes some time, but
Yeah, it looks like it's finishing up now. I did it the first time, and I miscalculated because I did it as of course, as a pocket, and I did it exactly 48 by 48, or actually it's 48 by 49, and forgot that if I do it exactly the size, it's going to have those little corners, because that 1.5 bit can't make that corner. So I had to rerun it again with it oversized 1.5 inch to make to allow it to make that one more pass around the edges with that bigger bit. So that's what it's doing now. It shouldn't have a whole lot of material to have to remove. So
Cool.
hopefully it'll be through shortly. But yeah, I'm just glad to have her uncovered, because I've had stuff stacked on top of her and everything else. But I had a job I had to do today, so I had to uncover it.
Well, I I hate to be the bearer of bad news,
Uh-oh.
but it would appear the same bug we were having last week with chat comments from my channel are here again this week. So I don't know what
Gosh.
Restream has done, but
Yeah,
they're not
looks like
playing nice.
we may have to swap over, because this is getting.
Yeah.
I understand that there might have been a few bugs the first week, but they should have already had that fixed by now.
Yep.
So
So
you're not your comments aren't coming through.
yeah. So everyone on my channel, appreciate you being there. I will keep an eye on chat, and we just won't have them appearing on screen tonight. So
Yeah. Oh. Oh, look at there.
yay, it's done.
Yep, sir.
But so yeah, you've been busy. You've been busy this weekend. You've been cleaning off
Oh
your
yeah.
spoil board there. I've been. What are you? Oh, you're moving your camera around.
Yeah.
Because I know on.
Ooh, it's
Okay, that's
upside
upside
down.
down. I know on your what was it? Was it on a? You'd shared this stack somewhere, didn't you? One of your little updates or something.
Stack. Oh yeah, I put a picture somewhere.
So that's just my failed attempt to highlight that we're on other social medias such as Instagram and Facebook and others. We do occasionally, when we think about it, share behind the scenes clips and footage and pictures. So
Yeah.
always check the links in our descriptions of these channels as well as our videos. We try to put them out there.
Looks like
But
the
yeah, you've got quite a stack there.
Yeah, I've got 8 completely ready to go. So at my current pricing, that would be $800 in the past 2 days in stove covers. I got some other stuff too, small jobs done, but for the most part, yeah, I'm about caught up.
Cool.
I've got 2 more jobs that I've had kind of on delay that I've been doing the design work on that I've got to get done. One of them I'm waiting on names, because it was a thing for a beauty contest, and they just had the beauty contest I think this past weekend. So I'm gonna be getting the names for that, and the other one is for a barbecue competition, and I've just been waiting. To be honest with you, trying to figure out exactly how the thing's going to look, what kind of wood do I want to use, and that kind of thing. So that project, hopefully, I'm going to try to get those done in the next 2 weeks, and be completely done with that. But I've got this little. This is the file here, but I'm going to do some tweaking to it. It's just it's a picture for like the ladies just doing this beauty contest or whatever that they want. But I've got some new material that I'm fixing to start using. This is my old Luan, and I've got some new stuff that I am loving, that I'm gonna be using for this, because it's a lot glossier, a lot sturdier, and it just looks awesome. So,
Cool.
yeah, I'll show you the material. I'm getting ready to do a video with it. It's a little more stubborn when you're cutting it, but this is like, I just spray painted this after I got through doing it. The bottom, I actually put nothing on that. It's a pre-finished 1/4 inch plywood, it's a lot more solid than what I traditionally use. So I'm gonna be using it to do those little picture frames. And the cool part about it is with it being one of those that's like it's pre-sealed when you get it. All you have to do is I sprayed this with some alcohol and wiped it off, and there's no like no burning or no kind of stain or anything like that from the engrave. And you can see it's very shiny and easy to clean up. So
Yeah, I've used pre-finished plywood in a few different applications. The only I guess my only concern would be is if I'm having to glue them up,
yeah,
because that's going to
yeah,
limit your limit
yeah.
the amount of how much the glue grabs into the fibers there. You'd have to make sure you have something that's going to be able to adhere to that. But
Well, lucky for me, one side is finished, the other side is not. So,
that's nice. Yeah.
so if you are gluing it together, you're going to get some pretty good adhesion on the one side at least. And but you just have to remember that when you're placing the material, because I did do one test. I actually engraved the unfinished side instead of the finished side, and I was like, man, why is this not cleaning up like it usually does? And then I realized it. But yeah, but it looks like I said, and the cool thing is you just wipe it off with some Windex or whatever, and it's nice and clean, no soot. So it's so far I'm liking the new material. So
Cool. Yeah, and that's the stuff you got from that kind of regional hardwood dealer in your area.
yeah, it's rugby. One I talked about. I think I talked about it last week. But yeah, but it engraves nice and dark, but you have to make sure to get enough power because see that coating. If you start try to be too soft with it, you'll leave that coating on there. So you have to pour the power to it a little bit. That was done with the A70. That's with the X40. And this one was with the MK2, but this is the one where I engraved the wrong side. That's the shiny side.
Now, does that have does it have like a poplar core to it with the birch veneer?
It is layered. Like I thought it was going to be an MDF, but it's a veneered plywood. I haven't took a pocket knife and pulled it apart yet because it's like it's really strong. But you can see the edges. Now my skill saw did kind of crappy on some of these pieces.
Interesting.
But you can see that. But it is very strong. So when you do finally break it, it doesn't want to come apart. So it's rather resilient, but it's very well glued once you do. Like I said, now it takes a pretty good bit of force. That took about all of my 225 pounds to snap that. So it's very rugged, and I don't know exactly what kind of wood's in the middle. It almost looks like it's got like an oak center. I'm not sure, but it's supposedly a birch veneer. So, but it works pretty well.
Well, it's nice to always nice to find a good material like that. And yeah, the pre-finished stuff, when you can find some stuff that your laser's happy with, it definitely makes some things easier
Yeah.
on the cleanup and it paint. If you can get paint to stick to it, it's smoother. You don't have to
Yeah.
worry about it soaking in too much. So there's definitely some benefits to it, but that's why.
There's the disadvantages though. That's a 40 watt and a 70 watt. That's the disadvantages.
Yeah, it'll
you're not
slow it
gonna
down a
be-
bit.
You're not going to be playing with this with a 10 watt very much
Right.
because it's tough.
Yeah, I might have to make it a visit to my local lumber yard here. That
But it
might
some
have something
pretty
similar to that.
cool- Makes some pretty cool little decorative things though.
Mm-hmm.
The backside's non-finished, so it's working out so far so well. So, uh, I've just got to, I just got to get those done, and I've got like 15 more sheets of that stuff that I didn't have room in my temporary storage over here. So I've still got them in the 4x8 propped up over my door. But yeah.
Cool. Well, I haven't been as busy in the workshop per se. It's been a busy week. I work at a community technical college, and classes start tomorrow. So
Mm,
we've been busy getting ready for that. Faculty came back this past week, and students are ordering books and they're getting their accounts set up and everything. So, but I have had some time. As I mentioned a couple weeks ago, I did finally get X-Tool F1 Ultra in the shop. So, been spending some time, especially since I can run that down here in the basement, spending some time doing some testing, getting it sorted out. So, hope to have my kind of an initial testing video out on that. Hopefully, here. Depends. There's one other thing I might like to throw in there, or I might just save it for another video. But I'll be getting that out here shortly. It's been an interesting machine to work with. So
yeah. Cool. Brad says he got his CNC Friday and haven't opened it yet. So he's curious what software do we recommend. Brad, which machine did you get? Just out of curiosity, because that will make a difference as far as like especially with VCarve, the work area of your machine. If you use Vectric, the bigger the work area, you have to upgrade your software. You can't use certain softwares with it. I use Vectric myself. I think I've used Easel, and Easel's probably the training wheels version of CNC software. But Vectric. Once I got into it, that's where I stay. I run VCarve Pro because with the 48 by 48, I have to have the Pro license to use it. So you got that long mill MK2 30 by 30. I think is it what's the limit for
24 by
desktop?
24.
Okay, so yeah, you'll have to have VCarve Pro in
I
order
mean,
to do projects 30
yeah,
by
to
30.
utilize the whole amount. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I started working with my first CNC router well over 10 years ago. There weren't as many of the subscription offerings out there. As a matter of fact, at the time, there was a plugin for SketchUp to create G code. It's long been since no longer supported, but at the time there, I was using it wasn't VCarve Pro, it was Cut 2D from Vectric, and used that and kind of just you grow up on a software. It's hard to change. So I've been a Vectric user from the very beginning on my CNC journey. Um, so that's the one I tend to go to. It is a little more expensive on the upfront, but it's buy it once, and unless you want to upgrade to later versions, you have it in perpetuity. And it's got a lot of features. It's got a lot of power to it. But yeah, what's the other one you used before you got into Vectric?
Easel.
Easel, yeah.
Yeah, it's like the training wheels version of CNC software. I mean, it is the probably the simplest and easiest way to do it, but it's very limiting. It's not. It's kind of like using. Well, I can't say it anymore, but it was kind of. It used to be kind of like using the old. What was it? Laser Box Basic,
Sure. Yeah.
compared to Lightburn, which for those of you that don't know, that was X-Tool's original software. But
Hmm.
Easel's pretty cool if you're just downloading files and or using stuff that's in their library. But when you start wanting to make your own, Easel's it's a little limiting and it requires an internet connection to run the machine and stuff like that. And it's just it gets. I graduated from it rather quick, but at the time I was trying different softwares to see which one I liked the best.
Yeah,
Mark, I will
I
tell you. Oh, go ahead.
oh, I was just going to say, if you want to compare another one, I know a lot of people um, like Carveco as well. So I
Yeah,
know James, our British friend, James Dean Designs. I think he
yeah,
does a lot with Carveco. Has a lot of YouTube videos and tutorials on it. Hamilton Dilbeck, I believe, has used that as well in some of his. So that's the other one that, again, I have only just a very introductory. I've played around briefly, I think, with it, but I don't. For me, I've just always jumped into Vectric. But that would be probably the other one I would look at if you're looking for something that's maybe not a buy it all at once deal, and it's going to be probably a little bit easier to get into, um, a little more user friendly training wheels of sorts.
yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah, the only other software I've used is I actually have used the Carbide Create, and it's okay. Uh, I was just already addicted to VCarve when I got the Shapeco because I had been using it with the Genmitsu machines that I had had. So when I got the Shapeco, I just decided I'm just going to keep running Vectric, and so it's pretty cool because no matter what machine comes in the shop, I can use VCarve with it. So Mark, I was going to tell you, there is a setting on the bamboos to where it can purge the color change into supports, and you can turn that off if you don't like the results from it. But I see where you said you found that. But yeah, there's an option in there to where you can have it do a tower, or you can purge it into the in, into the supports. So,
cool.
hey, Gary said he's out in the shop working on an enclosure for his extended iCure 70 watt. That's a big old machine.
Yeah,
A big good one though.
yeah. I've gotten so far behind on getting my enclosures done. So
Yep.
many other projects have taken the way.
Dennis, all I've got is the printout from where I got it over at Rugby, and they called it a 48 by 96 C2 white birch rotary cut whole piece face VC. That's what they called it. The place that I'm getting it from sells a lot of stuff to like cabinet shops and commercial cabinet makers and stuff like that. So a lot of the stuff that they have is specifically made for CNCing. Uh, I'm guessing that's what it means, rotary cut. I don't know, but there's a rugby. I do know that there's a rugby materials is in. They've got one in. I think he said Chattanooga or Nashville, and then another one in Atlanta. But the stuff was actually for a 4 foot by 8 foot sheet was $22.40. Now you got to break it down yourself, but that's for laser material and even CNC material. That's pretty cheap. The unfinished is 1874. So
And we're getting robbed up here. I I don't know if it's the same stuff, but Midwest, we got Menards, and they have 1/4 inch 4x8 UV pre-finished birch veneer core plywood,
mm-hmm.
but it's $48 a sheet.
Ooh. Maybe there's a rugby near. Maybe there's a rugby near you.
Well, that's why I want to go talk to my local hardwood dealer, lumber supplier.
Yeah.
They actually will import real Baltic birch, was along with other. I mean, they actually get a lot of their plywood from the place I used to have a dealer account with, and if I was to
Yeah.
get back into more production, I'd probably reopen that account. Um, so yeah, they might have a better source of this uh, than Menards, Home Depot, Lowe's kind of thing. But I knew I had gotten some pre-finished plywood. I had gotten it for my shop cabinets, the 3/4 inch stuff. but I
Yeah.
obviously wasn't cutting that with a laser.
Yeah, they had it thicker, but I was like, I don't really want anything thicker necessarily.
Yeah.
Uh, Now for the CNC, they had like metric and standard thickness MDF. And the store here actually told me that they had a bunch of metric MDF that they had accidentally got or gotten it on a sale or something. But he's like, if you want something cheap and you don't care what the thickness is, I can make you a lot better deal on this stuff than I can the half inch, 3/4, 1 inch. I think they said they had all the way up to 1.5 inch MDF, which I was like, I don't think I'm gonna be needing that. But I guess that would be more for like a countertop type thing. But yeah, he said that they have all kinds of hardwood and everything too. So it was an interesting walkthrough. But the problem is their hours are the same as my full time job hours. So when I went the other day, I had to buy like 20 sheets to make sure that I had enough to last me for a while. So that because I had to take off work early to go and get it. So, but we'll see. Somebody's asking, what do y'all do to keep all the small pieces from falling through the honeycomb? And if it's little small pieces like commas or periods that I need, a lot of times I'll just like cut extras in the file because you're going to lose those guys. The only real way to do it is either like put a piece of metal under it or just let them fall through the honeycomb and then pick the honeycomb up and get them out from under there. But if your honeycomb is anything like mine, generally once they fall under there, they kind of get lost in the mix because I got all kinds of other crud under there. But my recommendation is if you know it's like a period or a comma that you're going to need, just like copy it out and throw some in some of the wasted space on your material. And that way, if some of them do fall through, maybe one or two of them won't, and you'll have what you need. That's generally what I do. How about you, Steve? Any other recommendations?
No, don't cut them that small. No, if I'm cutting items that small and I think they might fall through, I will try to clean out underneath there. That way, if it does fall through, it's easier to find. Or as you said, I've just gone back and I'll recut that piece standalone sometimes if I've lost it. Yeah, it's tough. You could put a tab on it, but then now you got to cut it out, and no, just sometimes you just have to either plan for it by being able to find it easily underneath it, or like you say, just go back and recut the pieces that you can't find.
Yeah, that's seriously. When I do names, a lot of times, especially the ones that have like a period or a comma or something, I'll take a copy of that comma out and put like 4 or 5 of them in a void somewhere in an empty wasted space. That way, if one do fall through, I got like extras.
Mm-hmm.
So, see what we got. Trying to catch up on the comments.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of what was it? I think the new Creality Falcon has an actual pull-out tray that's underneath the honeycomb.
So does the Acer.
And is the Acer. Yeah, so I mean, some of them are starting to think of that. It makes it easier to clean it up, and also if you lose those parts, it makes it gives you an option there.
The only thing that Acer kind of dropped the ball on is they screwed the honeycomb to the crumb tray instead of magnets or something, which is good for indexing, using it to index. But I'm not certain how much that's gonna. It's kind of a small hole honeycomb, so there may not be a problem with stuff getting underneath it. But I'm afraid there may be like little pieces getting stuck in there or whatever. So I've been testing it, and I'm gonna wait and see if that becomes a problem or not. But so far, haven't seen it being a problem. But I'm a little leery of that.
Yeah. Well, it's nice to see them at least incorporating some of these ideas, whether it's from you know people like you and I putting out videos on it, or just taking comments and suggestions from their user base through user groups and other
Yeah.
things. So it is like you and I have said, there's no one perfect laser for everyone, but it's nice when they do take the input and start making things just a little bit better each time.
Yeah. Yeah, Mark, I haven't played around with the different purge options on that, which I haven't been using mine, to be honest with you, to do a lot of color stuff, just because that's not really something I do a lot of. Uh, but it is neat that they offer you different options of whether to put it on the infill, use it in the supports, do a tower, or a lot. I've seen a lot of people that do like these weird little like fidget spinners or whatever out of
Mm-hmm.
it's basically it's an object that you use to clean the old material out when you do a swap. So that's pretty neat. And then you wind up with this like multicolored little fidget spinner or whatever. But I haven't played with that. I've everything I've done so far has been mostly single color. When I have had a color swap, I just let it purge it into the little poop tray and went from there. So yeah, Sharon brought up an idea. Oh, my bad. You could put a piece of clear acrylic or a piece of glass under there to keep it from falling. Might scorch it a little bit, but it might work.
Yeah, yeah. I mean that. Yeah, if you don't have a gap there, you could end up with more.
Yeah,
The vaporization on the bottom side that creates more cleanup. But there's always different things to try to work with it. But sometimes there's just no way around them. If they're that
yeah.
small of a piece, you risk them falling out. So, uh, Dark Forest made was mentioning they got I believe it was like a storage auction that had some equipment, X tool equipment, and such in there. Sounds like they also had 100 pieces of 12 by 24
Hmm.
basswood, and so I mean that in and of
Somebody made
itself
out
is
good on
pretty
that storage
valuable.
building.
Yeah, because those that size, those are probably easily $10+ retail for those sheets. So
Yeah,
that could be $1,000 of material just there. So if it's what I'm thinking of, um, anytime you can get cheap material, whether it's even just for testing and prototyping, or hopefully something you can use in in production of gifts or product. I
yeah,
Now there's a fine line between getting good deals and becoming a material hoarder. Um,
yeah. Says the
Good thing
guy
I'm
that
not
has
in my
like all
shop right
kinds
now.
of wood behind him. Yeah.
I know. It's a good thing I'm not in my main workshop right
Well,
now.
I've hidden most of my wood is actually hid behind that stairwell right there. But I do have quite a bit propped up against the wall over there, also by that
Hmm.
front door. See those big sheets of plywood over there? so, so yeah. Hey, you try to minimize trips to the store because that gas of driving back and forth to the store, it's just an added expense. So
Well, and
sometimes I get extra.
and as you kind of get a feel for the material you're going to be using, um, now in lasers it's a little bit different. Tends to be more
Oh,
machined, manufactured type stuff. But even in in CNCs and woodworking, you'll get the deal of I've had it, whether it's the woodworker has passed away and the spouse or the children are needing to uh, get rid of a bunch of material, or sometimes it's just simply they're moving and they're like, hey, I know this is worth more, but I got to clean this out. You can find some deals if you're willing to, if it's useful to you and you're willing to store it. Um, so that's one thing I keep an eye on Facebook Marketplace and other for. But yeah, it quickly fall into the material hoarding.
yeah, I did find this piece of acrylic too.
uh, it's good.
It's actually Lexan.
It's ridiculously thick.
It's about 18 millimeters. Yeah, a little over half an inch. So, yeah, it's probably like 5/8. But it's a little dirty, but got this for the CNC. But yeah, it's Lexan that I managed to get my hands on.
Cool. There's a recommendation using heavy screen from the hardware store as a catch for that. I've used, so early, when I first got my X-Tool D1, and they hadn't come out with their honeycomb panel just yet. I actually had rigged up it was a fireplace screen, and it has 1/4-inch coils that actually hold fairly. I mean, it's fairly hardened steel. It doesn't really deform too much, and so if you kind of stretch it out over like a piece of sheet metal, it gives you a nice, fairly stable surface that doesn't have a lot of flashback to it. So now it was a bit of work, and the nice thing is if you go to if you got a local fireplace installer, a lot of times they've got some rejects or some recycled stuff. They're like, yeah, just go ahead and take it. So
yeah,
I there are plenty of options for honeycombs out there now, but that's a similar thing where it might prevent the parts from falling through too much.
Yeah. Victor's wife calling him out.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. Yeah, Dark Forest, I think who somebody was asking about the auction. Dark Forest actually bid on I guess it was just a coincidence on like a storage auction, where they have a storage box or whatever, they haven't paid on it in a long time. And basically you bid, I'm guessing this is what it was, you bid on it before they even open it. And then they opened it, and lo and behold, it's slapped full of laser stuff. Somebody running a laser business out of it.
I think the way most of those go is that they'll share some pictures, and they might have like a preview where, they'll open the door, but they won't let you go in. So you can kind of see like, oh, it looks like maybe there's a safe, maybe there's a box labeled this, maybe there's a PS5 box that is probably holding crayons or something. But, I think you get a preview to see what might be in there, but you don't get to actually like look through it, get your hands on it and such. That's how I think most of them around here have gone that I've seen.
I've never been to one. After seeing what he got out of that one, it makes me want to.
If you're into flipping stuff, a lot of people will, but the problem is you got to clean it out. You got to take the junk with everything else.
And you got to have somewhere to put it all.
Well, you got to have somewhere to put it all. You might end up having to pay to dispose of half of it too. But yeah,
and I don't have any room, so there's that.
Sure you do. Just pile it on that square box back there behind you with that weird thing that moves around and makes noise.
Dude, I just got that cleaned off. I had that 4040 Pro sitting up there, and I've been doing stuff with it. I've been having fun with it, but to do the job that I had to do today, I was like, there's no way I'm doing this with a 400 by 400, because I had to cut out this H, and it's huge. Like, this is a piece of 3/4 MDF, so this would have took a minute on the 4040. But this is the other part to it, and as you can see, that finished material, I mean, it really looks glossy when you spray. That's just some not Krylon, Rust-Oleum. But it really looks glossy. So there we go. But this is the other part of that. I'm not sure exactly how they want it placed. She sent me a picture of a different letter, so I'm just going to give her some adhesive and just be like, okay, where do you want it? Right here? Okay, yeah. There we go. So
yeah.
Because the letter she showed me was an S, and it was in the center of the S. But I'm like, if I put that in the center of the H, it's gonna look like two eyes. So, we're gonna have to discuss that.
So, Greg's asking, can a design like a logo made in Lightburn, can you save it as an image file like TIFF or JPEG? Yeah, Lightburn has
PNG.
export functions, so you can, depending on, if it's a raster, yeah, you're going to be limited to a PNG. I think maybe a bitmap BMP. Um, but if you've traced it and it's vectors, then you can actually export it as a DXF, Adobe Illustrator, or SVG. I think even PDF. I think there's the four. Um, so yeah, instead of doing a file save, do a file export, and you'll see all the options that it'll give you for the design that you're working with. I use that a lot when jumping between programs. As a matter of fact, sometimes Lightburn will import an SVG a lot better than, say, X2 XCS, and others. So I might bring it into Lightburn, make a few changes, then re-export it from there, because I've had pretty good luck exporting as SVG from Lightburn then into XCS. So here you go. There's the options if you can read them. Otherwise, yeah, look under file and export rather than file save.
Yes. But yeah, I thought you could actually export it as a PNG, but it's not. I don't know where I got that because it's not giving me that option.
Yeah, well, when you're working so many different ones, sometimes you get a little confused.
Yeah, I know. Usually from Adobe, when I'm building stuff in Adobe, that's what I use. Is I import it into Lightburn as a PNG. So, what the heck?
So,
What the heck?
yeah, Chris is recommending you watch Storage Wars to see how they operate. If you're interested in storage unit auctions, that I mean, obviously,
Shoot.
that's going to be a little bit. They're gonna add a bit of drama to it, but the basic idea is there.
I don't get a lot of time to watch a lot of stuff. I mean, I watch this weird guy called Ventari's Workshop on
I mean, if you
YouTube
got time to
every now
watch
and then.
that, you got time.
But other than that, and occasionally maybe some, Louisiana hobby guy or some of the other guys. I mean, that's about all I watch.
I
And
mean,
usually I'm not really watching as much as I'm listening.
I
No offense,
I hear
but
that one guy hasn't really posted anything in the past week and a half, so I don't know what you've been watching.
yeah. Well, I usually put these earbuds right here in. These are my ISOs. I used to wear the big ISOs, but then I found these guys, and these guys are much more comfortable, especially when I run them around the shop here.
Yeah.
And so I listen to these and listen to y'all guys. I listen like the Laser Makers, Ram, and all them, and Steve Makes Everything, and all those guys. I'll be in here working with these earbuds in, because you never know when one of you guys may like say something about me, and I have to come over here and defend myself or whatever. That happens a lot. So I've got these.
Yeah.
And if I'm really trying to muffle out the background noise, I got those. But
Yeah, those are good. I actually need to replace mine, both my earbuds and my over the ear ones from IsoTunes. I've had them for a number of years, and because they actually have a decibel reduction rating as opposed to just active noise canceling.
yeah.
But I've got not to get into too sales pitch, but I've gotten into the Raycon earbuds recently, the past year. Actually, these headphones are the same there too. And that's what I'm usually, same thing. I usually got those on and either a live stream or trying to catch up on other people's videos. And sometimes, have to pause what I'm doing and hop in chat too. But it's easy to, like you say, it's more listening than watching sometimes.
Well, I've got two monitors here, and then I could actually cast to that one over there also. But I put these buds in, and I'll be listening. It's like Steve and Rick and them over they'll be like, they said the other day it was kind of like Beetlejuice. If you say my name 3 times, I'll appear or whatever. because they'll say something and I'll hear it and I'll look over here and then
is that why you're name dropping everybody here? You're just trying to get the viewer stats up on it. You can bring them in, mention them 3 times and they'll start popping into our chat.
No, but that's like I said, that's about all I watch. And usually, like I said, I'm not really watching. I'm listening while I'm doing other stuff.
Yeah.
Uh, Even sometimes I'll be like listening to them while I'm making videos, and I'll just hit pause and take my earbuds out and do the next section of video. But yeah. Robert's wanting to know: does anybody know anything about why a fiber laser would frame but not mark? Yeah, a fiber you definitely want to check and make sure you're focused. But another thing is just if you're running Lightburn, is make sure the output is actually clicked, because especially in the power and speed settings here lately, after one of the updates that they did, a lot of my speed and power tests, some of the layers were not set to output for some reason. So I don't know who can barely hear me, but everybody else says they can hear me fine. So I don't. Maybe it's well, no, both of them are listening on YouTube. I don't know. I don't know what it is. Maybe YouTube's just yanking my chain, because some folks are saying they hear me fine.
I actually had opposite issue today. I was working on a multi-layered SVG, and somehow there were double lines on there, and so when I went into the detail, there was so many objects that it was really messing things up, because it was going to basically blank out my entire design that I was going to engrave. But yeah, double checking all of those. I've had that, and sometimes the same thing is you'll have an artifact item. You'll wonder why it's framing so much bigger. You can sometimes have an object that you didn't realize didn't get deleted, or it might be hidden, but it's still part of it. So definitely good to check your layers and all your settings on things like that.
Yeah. Kevin said he's got the ISO tunes and bought the DeWalt Supersonic Shop Vac. The noise reduction is insane. I don't have the only DeWalt I have is my dust collector for my sander, and it's not all that quiet, but it's awesome because it's the one that's made for the sander, and it like shakes the filters and cleans them. I mean, it's very nice. Like my sinus issues, when I got this thing, my sinus issues like subsided seriously. And I've been using it for a while now, and the filters still look like they're brand new, because it does this weird thing while it's running. Like it sounds like somebody's hitting it with a hammer. It's like bam, bam, and it knocks the dust off of the filters somehow. I don't know how it does it, but you can hear it. It's like boom, boom when you're sanding, and it's pretty nice though. I don't have that look as if it's snowed in here every time I do stove covers now. Okay, I'm going to crank my volume up one more notch, but I am pegging the output meter. So I'll turn it up a little bit.
And I actually bumped mine down in Restream itself before we started by 25%, just to try to preempt this issue that we've been having. So I don't know. I think they're all signs.
It says I can
turn
it up to 150.
We need to ditch this software.
Yeah. What in the world?
Got a question here from Dark Force Made. How do you determine how to theme small items when you are prepping for a show? What are some go-to? How many do you just leave blank to personalize? I mean, you've shown a few of your things in the past on your mobile Clack Shack. So
Yeah.
you'll have like a few hanging dog tags, right?
Yeah, I mean, you gotta get something you want to catch people's eye when they walk by. So you're gonna want to take some of your what you suspect, because it's always a guessing game. Every event I've ever been to, you got to do your research. But the small stuff that I try to sell a lot of, I'll make up a few that I think will catch people's eyes. And like my little Chihuahua that I set on my table, that little guy has made me more money, because it's just a Chihuahua cutout, and he's got a little piece of twine or whatever as a collar, and I've got like the little bone with his name on it. around his neck, and everybody that walks by that likes dogs spots that thing from across the way, and they're like a beeline. Do you make personalized dog tags for pets? And I'm like, yes, I do. Cats, dogs, pigs, horses, whatever. I'm your guy. And I use that kind of stuff to try to bait people in. I've got a few pictures of the last event that we did, but that's the biggest thing is whatever is sitting out, you want to make sure you have something that's going to catch folks' eye and get them to walk over or at least look towards your booth. And then once you get them to where they look towards your booth, then it's up to you to try to initiate contact and try to make that sale, because they may only look your way for just a few seconds, and if you don't do something then you may miss the opportunity. So trying to find. I had it on the pictures in a video. Let me see if I can. Or all the pictures in a folder.
But yeah, it definitely is worth trying to do a little bit of research or see what people, what people are looking for, and then a simple mock-up with a couple examples. But if you have the ability to engrave on site, then it only takes a few examples, and then maybe every so often if you don't have any customers, maybe burn an extra one so people kind of see it, because that can kind of catch people's eye and such. But yeah, you don't want to. You can also, if you add too much stuff, they don't know what to look at. So try to find a balance of, these are some of the key things you really want to sell. Try to highlight those. Don't get it too cluttered, because their eye won't know what to go towards.
Yeah, it's a balancing act. Peach Jam 2024. Why in the world did I not put that in the other ones? Okay, here we go. All right, so let me let me start out with this one right here. All right, first of all, my help at this event was sorry. He stayed on his phone the whole time. He didn't do much. But that's kind of backstage of this past Peach Jam. That's the front view. I simplified my setup, and I went and got me some grass, some portable grass, because the grass around my little venue there was a little bad. But you can see I've got my Chihuahua. That guy right there draws them in like crazy. And then I've got my displays for the dog tags, keychains, just the stuff that I try to sell the most of. I've got those set up. And of course, there's my help. He's actually off his phone temporarily at that point. But this is this past year's, and those things like stuff like that were the big hot seller. And yeah, there's those guys. Oh, wait a minute. But yeah, this is toward after we'd been there for a while, and I'm almost sold out of blanks. So we were getting down to, we just had little scraps because we were almost completely out of blanks. Wound up the things that I was selling the most of, I sold out, and basically started pushing other stuff at that point. But you can see this is kind of my backstage area. This is where my blanks and all that. I keep this table with the blanks on it, and this was Klein's post over here. He would more or less just hand me the blanks and like make sales over here in this area while I was over there working. But it was very very fun this year, because the Peach Jam itself is a bit of a different animal compared to a lot of events that I've done. Like the very first event that I done, man, it was unreal. I don't know if I have any pictures from that one, but it was sad. It was very sad. Let me see if I've got. No, I don't think I do. I'll have to go back and find those. But my very first event was just sad. Like, it was very sad. Anyway. Let me get
Yeah,
back
and
up here.
that's something we've talked about in the past too. Is that um, your first couple shows, um, keep in mind that this is kind of you're going to school. It's about learning, not so much about getting rich or making even making your money back on it. It's about figuring out your setup. It's about seeing what the crowds react to, maybe what other booths look like and what's working well for them. Um, and from there, I mean, it's you'll hopefully get better quickly, and each time you learn what not to bring, what not to do, or what to
Yeah.
focus more on. So, and every
Well,
market's different too. What works for me up here might not work for David down there.
absolutely.
So
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing too, I will throw this out there. A lot of people, and it's nothing. There's nothing wrong with it. It's the people's personalities are different. A lot of people and I did a video. I need to go to an event that I'm not at. That's not here local, so people don't get mad at me. And like just videotape from my perspective, because a lot of people will let you walk right past their setup. You can look at their table and they won't even say a word. They won't look at you. They're not very friendly. Those people they're gonna have to come back and learn and learn and learn. But yeah, the first time that I ever did an event, I don't think I made a sale. I'm gonna be honest with you. It was for the local arts council. They hit me up. It was very last minute. All I had was a few cutting boards and like some. I think I had some Christmas ornaments and stuff. And I don't think I sold anything. But the one thing that I did do is I got to see the other people that came and set up at the event and how they had their stuff set up, and how things went for them, and what things I needed to bring to kind of make my booth look better and stuff like that. And over the years, it's been 3 years I think since I did my first one. I've always tried to improve. Like every time I go to an event, we sit down and try to figure out, okay, where did we go wrong? Like me and Klein talked about at this past event. I drastically underestimated how many dog tags and pet tags and stuff I would sell, and I sold out of them. I had ordered like packs of 100 and sold out of them. So I re-upped, and now I've got like 300 of each in my inventory on my trailer. So I may not have them out, where I can use them right there, but I keep them in the trailer so that we can, get to them if we need to. But that was a surprise for me. I've never ran out of inventory to engrave. From my first event where I didn't sell anything, I was just giving away stuff to kids, to the last one that I did where I actually was able to pay Klein for helping me. I bought our lunch. I was able to pay for my gas, my entry fee, and still had a little money left over. So that's, like you said, don't go into these things thinking you're going to make a killing, because you're not, especially not your first couple. Those are going to be training. If you can break even on them, consider yourself lucky. Just have fun and learn. That's what I've had to do. Any of these, Michael, I'm gonna go ahead and throw it out there. Any of these filters that you can buy for say less than $200 or $300 aren't real filters. I mean, they're gonna work. They're gonna take the edge off of it. They will make it tolerable in most environments, but you're gonna be buying filters, and you're gonna expect limited success. Whether it's the Comgrow, the X tool, the laser pecker one does pretty decent. It's got a lot bigger filter in it than the Comgrow does, so I expect the lifespan of it to last longer. But all of these filters are, they do filter some, but they're not going to be 100%. So don't go into it with an unrealistic expectation. And I know you've had similar results, Steve, with the ones that you've used, because you've got the X tool one. I don't have it, so.
yeah, I both the desktop version, which works with the original F1, as well as the new or what is it, the M1 Ultra. That uses a smaller desktop one, and then the most of their other lasers can adapt into their regular one. It works to a point. Even brand new and fresh, it takes a lot of it off there. But I've actually ran a air quality meter, and off the outlet, it's not happy, so it's not filtering
Yeah.
everything, and then they get plugged up really quick, especially that top particulate filter, and then it slows it down, and then it starts beeping, and the smoke doesn't get evacuated. So yeah, the filtration units help, and I do tend to bring them to shows just to cut back on it. But anytime at home in either shop, I try to make sure I'm able to vent them outside.
Yeah. Yeah, not bored. If you, like I said, you don't necessarily have to be able to do everything on site, but like you said, have a way that people can get in touch with you, because the people that you talk to that day may very well reach out to you later and get something done. So yeah, business cards are always a good way of doing it, and the anodized business cards are really cool. So I use those as well. Yeah, Michael Klein put in some work at this last event. But yeah, there were several folks came by and hung out with us, and I enjoy that. I'm gonna be honest with you, paying the registration fee and getting to hang out. I think I gave away $100 or so worth of T-shirts at this last event. So like, I'm not there necessarily trying to make a killing. But it was fun to meet people and get to hand out some shirts to some of the viewers and stuff like that. And it's awesome. But yeah, we do have one coming up. And I think I saw somebody. Yeah, there it is. Tanya saying that she can't wait to see us at the Fall Garden Festival. And yes, Brandy and I, if nothing changes, are going to be at the Fall Garden Festival at Pedals from the Past, coming up in this, I think it's September. Yeah, I have to get the exact date, but it's on my Facebook page. So if you follow the Clack Shack on Facebook, you can go check out the events section, and I'll try to get. Let me see. Try to get a link for it. Yeah, here it is. But Brandy and I will be there, just hanging out and meeting people. So. Yeah, oof.
Cool.
I don't know if I can get it. I don't know how in the world is supposed to let me have a link to this.
Yeah, Greg, when I'm doing indoor events, I tend to not. Yeah, I try to limit it. I'm a little more comfortable doing, like the dog tag, the anodization stuff, than full on, vaporization of wood and such. But outdoor, even I'll sometimes run it just to help cut down on the smoke between your customers as well as your fellow um, you know people showing at the events. No one necessarily wants to go to a craft show or a farmer's market and start smelling like campfire or worse. So
Sure they do. Ain't nothing like showing up at a farmer's market and it smelling like Talladega.
yeah,
I usually try to get myself back away from everybody, to where I'm not messing with them. I don't do as much wood, but I will cut some wood now.
and
That's why I
that's
got the OA24 there.
yeah, and that's the thing to try to make sure if you're doing it, keep that visual. Uh, Make sure there's really no. I mean, it's cool to let people see the laser working, but you also have to balance that out with making sure that there's no chance for any direct or reflected light, because that, even if it doesn't do any actual harm, it can open up you to some people who think you did some harm, and then
Yeah.
you're then you get to test your business insurance sometimes.
Yeah. Jeffrey, yes, I live very close to Cog Hill. Jason and Brooke actually live relatively close. So, I actually see them periodically. but yeah, they're good folks. Chestnut Hills is near here. Of course, my friend May May, G&G Farms is another one of my neighbors that's right down the road. So there's actually a lot of YouTube channels that are really close to where I'm at. So it's it's quite the community around here. So Greg, I usually put most everything on YouTube that I can. Sometimes pictures get put on Facebook or Instagram more so than YouTube. But I've tried to use the post, where you can post photos on YouTube. I've tried to use it a little bit more, but I'm terrible at that sometimes.
Yeah, me too.
Up north knowledge, they said, went to an outdoor event, paid extra for power, and the next event they said the power extra was only for lights and not for customization. The only thing we were running was a hat press. Yeah, a lot of times, like I said, luckily where I'm at, most every event I either have access to like a plug that I can use, or I'm able to use my little generator. I've got a wind inverted generator. It's like 1,000 watt generator that's really, really quiet. And I've got a long extension cord where I can put it, out of the way or get it away from everybody. And so I'm lucky on that. Steve has that cool little rechargeable battery box that I really need to get one of, but I haven't yet. I'm hoping that maybe this next year before Peach Jam, I'm hoping to get me one of those. And what I want to do is I want to have that as well as the generator, but kind of have that as, to where the generator basically is just going to provide power to that thing and charge it. I use a UPS on my portable shack and it works pretty well. But as I keep adding things, whether it's a fan or, a charger for this or the F1 and the Atom stack and then extra fans, extra lights, it's getting to the point to where I need a little bit more reserve power so that generator can, as I peak and use a lot of power, then the generator could charge that thing back up slowly after it was over with, or maybe even the solar panels. So we're going to look at that this coming up year, adding that to the portable shack. But I know Steve likes his.
Yeah, I have mine. I'm actually going to be testing another one along with taking the LP5 portable here. Hopefully, maybe even, later this weekend. And I'll try to, I'll try to show what to look for in them. I also bought a kind of one of those plug-in watt meter deals. So I want to use that to show a few different machines and their power draw. Um, Unfortunately, with a heat press, those tend to be a little higher power, higher wattage. So you know you could run it, but if you keep that heat press powered on and drawing it, depending, maybe I'll plug mine in and see really what it's actually drawing. But yeah, that can be an option, especially if you're an outdoor event and can get some distance from some of those things. But it is kind of hit or miss. I would imagine, some of these event coordinators, they've provided some power, and then all of a sudden you get a few people with a high power draw, things can ruin it because the venue all of a sudden realizes like we really got a huge electric bill this time, and so I mean I can understand that on both, but
Yeah,
it's
worse
definitely
than
something
that,
to
worse than that if everybody requests it and you don't have the infrastructure to support it.
right.
You know.
Yeah. Whereas
So
lights, it's with LED lights these days, it's pretty low draw. They can provide that, but definitely something to think of is being able to provide your own power in any scenario, just so that you're not relying on it.
yeah. Gray, I've tried the borax thing, and all the borax to me, all that really does is it causes it to create a lot of black soot. And if you don't immediately take and spray that with some clear coat or something to stick it into the engrave, it just creates a mess. It'll just like literally you can hit it with an air hose and the black goes away. I used it maybe 2 or 3 times testing it, and then I tried to use it on a project. It turned my wood colors and made it like have this weird like tint to it, and I haven't used it since, and that's been about 2.5, 3 years ago. So I don't use it. I use focus, speed, and power to get the dark that I want. If I can't get it as dark as I want it doing that, I mask it and backfill it with paint. That's your options, in my opinion. So what say you about that there, Steve?
Yeah, pretty much the same. I I unless you can conceal it right away and you don't have any, like that overburn kind of vaporization stuff marking on the edges to clean up, it's okay. But I just it's a step I don't like to mess with. Like you say, if I need a really dark contrast like that, I'll either change the material or mask it and paint it.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, if you were coming up at 65 through Alabama, you were actually pretty close to where I am. Greg said he still hasn't ordered an A1, but close. Which filament will be good for small, lightweight photography parts if I learn to design what I'm thinking of? It depends on where you're going to be using them. I used some PLA on a cover for my boat for my depth finder. It got hot the other day and it reformed itself. So if it's going to be outside where it might get in the sun, I would definitely recommend some not using PLA. Was it PETG or
Well,
ABS one?
yeah, I mean there are some advanced types of PLA. PETG would be a little bit better, but I mean that being said, my wife's always asked me like, hey, I got this little thing. Can you print it out for my camera? And for the most part, I mean, she'll take them outside and go on hikes with it. Unless it's really sitting in direct sunlight for a long time, really warming up, they seem to be okay. And you know
Yeah.
what? In the off chance that they've broken, I just print another one.
Print another
So
one. Yeah.
uh, without jumping into an enclosed type of a printer and printing an ABS, I've been pretty happy with most parts. Now, if I was printing something that's going to sit in my car in the sunlight, that would be something different. But parts that like you're probably in and out of a camera bag, in and out of the house, um, yeah, you'll be okay with a lot of the easier filaments.
Yeah. PLA, I think, is the most forgiving medium to use.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's kind of the easy get started one, but it's got its limitations.
Yeah. Yeah, Ralph, I could make stuff if I wanted, but to be honest with you, a lot of times by the time you go through the trouble of making this and making that, it's just as convenient and just as useful sometimes for me to just buy it. Uh, like I said, I've got inverters. I've got an inverter in my truck and all this, but it's just one of those things that, until I get my hybrid F-150, I'm limited on power. Now, I do plan on one day upgrading to the hybrid F-150 if I can ever get it to where they're affordable. Because that thing basically has 7,000 volts of electricity on board, and it'll crank up and run like a generator at wheel. So that's one of these days, maybe I can get one. I will never be able to go fully electric here where I live because I would be stranded if I wasn't careful. But I do like the hybrid F-150s and the fact that you can literally power an RV with your truck. I think that's pretty cool. So one of these days I'll get me one of those.
I mean, I wouldn't say never. I follow battery technology pretty closely over the years, and I think we'll be amazed in say another 10 years what they're able to do. So
Yeah, but where I'm at though, being out of power, out of electricity for a week at a time is not really that uncommon. So I wouldn't want to be stranded. So I would definitely have to have a hybrid.
I mean, yes, but I mean the storage capacity of the batteries,
They are
and
getting better.
the energy density is it's getting up there pretty quickly, and yeah, you still have to be able to feed them, but
Yeah.
yeah, from the more so from the and I'm for my day-to-day use, yeah, I could, but when I travel, it's still not necessarily feasible. It takes a little more planning to do it. But yeah, I think that the technology is going to change pretty rapidly because it has been being in model aviation and doing almost pure electric model flight over the past 10 years is something I never would have thought was possible 20 years ago. So
My wife says, "Oh my, seriously." That's down the road.
well, when
I
you
can get
when you
my
get that new
when I get my
shop, you just gotta
camper, when I get my camper and everything, like
you
later.
you get that new shop. You're gonna be lining the roof with solar panels.
Uh, Mark's asking, when you mask and paint, do you use the laser to cut the masking so you get the exact pattern matching? No, I add extra power to the engrave, and I basically just totally obliterate the masking material until there's nothing left. And just all you got to do is add a little extra power, because if you start trying to cut that material and then weed that out of there with a razor blade or something, you're going to be there all week. But I use either this roll of masks that I have over here, which is basically just transfer paper or transfer tape, or either I use painter's tape. And either way, I just add a little extra oomph to the engrave and send it. And you'll even find sometimes that by having that the glue and the paper and all that, or the tape in there, sometimes you actually will get a little bit darker engrave.
Yeah, and it also can be good just to prevent the staining. Even if you're not going to paint it. So if you've got a like a one of a kind piece and you're not going to be able to like sand it or really use any sort of cleaner on it, that can be a good thing. Just be sure whatever you use, like especially if you're using transfer tape, you want to make sure it's more of the paper based stuff. Some of those can have some nasty stuff in there. You don't want to run the laser through, but most painter's tape is generally okay.
The green painter's tape works better because it doesn't reflect as much blue.
Frog tape,
Yep.
although there are other brands, but
Yeah, the green. If you're gonna get painter's tape to use in your laser shop, though, I would recommend getting green, because like if you're wanting to, just do a real faint line test on something or whatever, you can use the green and you can see it a lot better, and it engraves better with the blue lasers than does the blue. So you don't have to ump up your power as much when you're using it for masking. Dwayne, cool, good deal. The F1 is a cool portable machine. I like mine. Portability, especially if you're going to be going around doing stuff like at events and stuff like that. The portability of the F1 is kind of hard to beat. Now the laser pecker, the LP4 and even the LP5 are as portable, but the cone on that LP4 to me is not as well of a design as the F1. So
yeah, and even the LP5, depending on the item you're doing, if you have to raise the focus up too far, it also that cone's now up
Yeah.
yay amount. Now they do have the enclosure that's been a little delayed,
supposed to
but
get one.
that might be the happy medium because I haven't seen it yet. I don't know how big it is. I don't know how heavy it is, and how much it takes away from the portability. But yeah, that's the thing with the original F1 is that shroud encloses it very well. Doesn't matter where you focus it, unless you're running the tumbler, the rotary accessory, or something that sticks out. It does a really good job of keeping you and anyone around it protected from the light.
Yeah, like I said, my little F1, even though it's not the most powerful machine I have, my little F1 is that's my event machine. Yes, I have the Ultra, but in my opinion, the Ultra is not It's just not portable. It's not made to be hauled around everywhere. It's too expensive. It's got too many things that could get broken, and they didn't put handles on it. So obviously, if they didn't put handles on it, they didn't want you toting it around. So I use my F1. I
Yeah, it
like
is
the
a little.
Ultra, but I like the Ultra sitting where it's sitting.
Yeah, yeah, that shroud, it's basically all the way around three sides, so you don't have a lot of area to grab onto that. So
Uh, I don't like doing head to heads because to me, each machine is in its own. Like if you ask me, I'll tell you. But as far as doing a video, pitting one machine against the other, because it depends on which perspective you're approaching the video from as to which machine is going to win. So if I go into it as, hey, which machine is more portable? Well, it's going to be the LP5. If I go into, hey, which machine is safer and the enclosure apparatus is safer? Well, it's going to be the F1 Ultra. So it just those type videos to me, it's if you have the least little bit of bias, it'll end up swaying the video. So I don't really like doing those. I like just kind of pointing out the things about each individual machine, and then you can watch both videos and kind of come up with your own opinion. It's just pitting them against each other. Like I said, it depends on the situation. If you told me this is my situation, which machine would be better, I can tell you, in that. But just being able to say, okay, this machine's better than this one, it's not always going to be the case. Depends on what you're using it for. I do not like Laser Pecker's little cone thing as much as I like X Tools up and down sliding cover. But at the same time, the LP5 is much, much more portable than the F1 Ultra. But that portability comes with a cost, in that the enclosure is not as secure all the time. So
well, and the interesting thing will be to see. Both of us have been told we'll be getting the enclosure for the LP5. Now that is nice because it's an optional type thing, and it's different than their older enclosures. It doesn't go around the laser. The laser actually bolts on top of it. It adds a camera, adds a lifting mechanism. So it'll be interesting to see how that might change that comparison. So I think, to be fair, we'd want to wait till that is out to really make any real this is better than that in any one way. So
yeah, the enclosure that they have looks like it would be like if you were wanting to take it out in places and have it in public, it looks to me like it would be a good upgrade for that machine. But like you said, it's going to be a little while before it's available. I think they told me it would be later in September before it came out. I was trying to find a picture of it. There it is. But this is what it looks like. So it does add a lot more security and ease of use to it, but it's also going to add some weight to it, so it's not going to be as portable. So, but I think it's going to be like I said, it's going to be interesting to see what it looks like when it gets here. Because I do like the machine. I actually don't mind their software as much as I thought I would. Their software is kind of like XCS. I mean, it's kind of growing on me.
Yep.
Aldrich is saying they got the enclosure for the LP4 and it's great.
Yeah, and that one kind of went around the laser, if I remember right, where this one the laser mounts to the top of it. So it's different design, but yeah, definitely getting rid of that weird cone is going to be the nice benefit.
Yeah, that cone's just a little awkward to me. So
yeah. So I got a question over here on my channel from Melissa, is asking, can you paint wood prior to laser cut? lay masking
Absolutely.
tape to avoid the flame marks. What does lowering the focus and kerf offset do? So yeah, you can paint the wood before lasering, but you do definitely want to make sure you follow the instructions on its cure time. Let it fully cure, and then you can definitely lay tape over that, and that will help reduce or eliminate the flame marks on there. So, but the key thing there is definitely let the paint cure before you go putting the tape on there. Otherwise, you may find that when you pull the tape off, it pulls some or all the paint with it. Um, so, it'll add some time, but if you plan ahead and prep your material well in advance, then it's definitely something you could do. As far as what is lowering the focus do, that helps. If you have thicker material, you can get the focus point more towards the center of the material rather than on the top, because the focus is actually kind of an hourglass. It goes in and then back out. So if you have your focus on the top of your material, it's going to be kind of going out of focus as it goes deeper into the material. So it'll help make a little less of an angled cut on there, and it'll also be more effective cutting, because it'll be coming in and out of focus rather than just going way out of focus as you go through it. And as far as kerf offset, so the beam, it's following a line, and your laser beam is so wide, and it's following a line in the middle. So half of your laser beam is actually on the inside versus the outside of your object. So if you want two objects to fit exactly together, you need that beam to just bump up against the edge. You want your laser beam to just be riding along the edge of that line. And so figuring out your kerf offset is usually half the width of your laser beam. You bump that out, and then it'll cut along the edge of it rather than on the center, and make your part exactly the right size. So that's mostly important when you need like interlocking parts, such as you want a tight fit of puzzle pieces or box joints, um, stuff like that, or inlays where you want them to be nice and tight. For just decorative, cutting out words that are going to be layered on top of each other or not interlocking, it doesn't really matter as much. But really, just when you're trying to fit a couple parts together is where you'd want to worry about the kerf offset.
Yeah. The curve's not going to be a problem much in most of the stuff that you do. Occasionally. Gray says that your pen holder was a fun video.
Cool.
Enjoyed it. And Valley Forge is asking, have you seen any Eric? I said Valley Forge. Eric over at Valley Forged. Have you seen any good AI tools for laser engravers? I haven't gone down that road yet. No, I don't. The stuff that I don't do a lot of the artistic stuff per se. So as far as having like 6-fingered people pictures to laser engrave, I don't do a lot of that. Most of the stuff that I do is either boxes or images that people sent me or logos and stuff like that. So I haven't really, for what I do, there's not really a good solution with AI. I don't think. What about you, Steve? You might tiptoe more into that than I do, but I don't think you
Sure.
would either.
Yeah, I've played around with it. And actually, I used AI to create an image for the F1 Ultra to engrave. And so that it can be useful for that if you just need kind of a stock image to play around with. Or if you're trying to create, I've seen a few where it does a pretty decent job of making like a 3D effect logo type thing. But as far as with the laser, um, the only one that I don't know, I mean, this is quasi AI, but playing around with the embossment tool of in Xtools software, it can take a typical vector or raster image and actually make a depth map out of it fairly simply. There's a lot of ways to do it yourself through image manipulation and processing from a couple tools, but I've actually been a little bit impressed just a couple times I've played around with theirs. Now it does take, they have their credits, and I think it takes 2 credits, and you can earn them by putting posts in their groups, sharing things, or you can even pay for them. So it's not free, but I was actually fairly impressed with how simple that made that. So outside of that, though, I haven't, it's really more of artwork generation tool for most people, but I'm always curious what others will say. Now, from you know, outside of laser realm, if you want to make some really quick how-to information for someone, just go into like ChatGPT and type up a create help documentation on how to do X, and you'll be surprised at how well some of that stuff is. And then if you want to, you can do it in a Dr. Seussian tone, and it'll make it sound like the Cat in the Hat.
Yeah. Charlie, actually, no. A lot of the laser companies do. I mean, they don't have a problem with it. First of all, I don't know that there's anything that I could do to get them to stop sending me lasers, because even I know me and Steve both tell them no, do not send it, and they still show up sometimes. You know, they're like, hey, we have this, and I'm like, no, I don't think I can really use that, and then it still shows up. So I don't know that's not my thing. My thing is you're going to start because everybody is going to look at it and go, well, yeah, your video says that this machine is better, but for my scenario, this machine is better. And it's absolutely true. Just like everybody's always like, oh, the Rolly's the best machine ever, and blah, blah, blah. Okay, it's a good machine, but it depends on your use of that machine. For somebody else who lives in a one-room apartment somewhere, that may be too big of a machine for them. They may want something smaller, you know? So it's always, no matter what it is, there's a certain amount of your evaluation of it that is going to depend on your circumstances and the set of guidelines in which you're trying to operate. Me personally, if I had to trash every machine in this building as far as lasers, and I could only keep one, it's going to be that guy right there, because that's where my stove covers get made. You know, I just burnt out 10 stove covers on that machine in the past 2 days. But if for some reason next week, you know, I get a job of cutting out, 300 pieces that are 12 inches by 12 inches and engraving them, I'm going to use this guy over here, the A70, because it cuts so much faster than the 40 watt. So you have to be able to look at the situation you're going to be using the machine and apply, what's best. That's like for me, if I was going to go buy a car, I'm not going to go buy a Prius, because one, I don't think you can get a trailer hitch on those to pull my trailer or pull my boat. I'm pretty sure you can't fit a 4x8 sheet of plywood in a Prius. So for me, a Prius would not be a good vehicle for me to purchase. But for somebody, yeah, but for somebody that lives in, say, New York City or Chicago or Detroit, who has limited parking, a lot of traffic, and don't haul those things, a Prius might be a better alternative because it's a heck of a lot better on gas. So your scenario dictates it, because a lot of this stuff is dependent on your perspective. And like I said, comparing the Laser Pecker and the F1, I could do 6 different videos from 6 different perspectives and have 6 different winners in every video and be telling 100% be telling the truth. Because that's just the way it is. Some of these machines have, just like me and Steve, if we're playing limbo, I'm going to have an advantage over Steve because he's so darn tall. If we're trying to fit in a Prius, I'm probably going to get in there faster than Steve does. But at the same note, if we're trying to reach something that's really high off the ground, he's probably going to beat me. Because each scenario, each situation is unique. So it hadn't got anything to do with the companies. Trust me. You can ask Steve. You can ask Eric. The companies are going to send the machines regardless. It's just a matter of I could do a video and give you 6 different scenarios, like I said, but each scenario, the machine's going to vary which machine I would pick. But if you want to know what machines I like, just look at what I'm running. I mean, I got an Atom stack there. All right. I got an Atom stack there. I've got my MK2 there, my S1 over there, and then the fibers and stuff, and the P2 over there. So if you want to know what machines I like, then just look around, see what's in the shop.
Yeah, and actually,
Grayson is triggered by the Prius.
some of them actually, they know they pay attention to us and they know what machines we have. And I've had some ask, "Hey, will you do a comparison video between our product and theirs?" Because they're assuming there's will
Yeah.
coming on top and whatnot. So it's not that they don't. Some of them, it's hit or miss. Some of them are like, "Hey, we don't want you to use our product in any comparison things," as well as others are like, "Hey, bring it on." Um, I'd also like to just state that a Prius does have a 1,500-pound tow capacity, but if you and I were to get in there, it'd probably drop below 1,000 pounds.
I was fixing to say, but you got to deduct my 230 pounds from that, and then I got to put some gas in it. If me and you took a trip together, it probably wouldn't get 50 miles to the gallon either. It's like I was looking at my buddy Bill. We went fishing the other day, and my boat's rated for like 4 people, but there's the stipulation of so many pounds. And I'm not light. I mean, I'm like 230, 220 on a good day. Bill's closer to like 320, 300. I'm like, between the two of us, we got this thing. We got it well loaded.
Yeah,
So,
careful how big of a fish you catch, huh?
yeah. You can't bring along too much ice.
Yeah, James, I know what you're going with that, and I think I've seen a few people do these pretty well, where they kind of walk that line of saying, this is, for these types of scenarios, this one comes out on top. For these types of scenarios, this one comes out on top. So yeah, those would definitely be, it'd be interesting, but I can also say that those take a lot of, those can take a lot of time to kind of come up with all those scenarios to try to make it
Fair.
even, but fair and not show some bias and such. And so I tend to agree with David on, I prefer to try to say, okay, here's everything about this laser. Here's how it stacks up against their rated specs. Here's how I find it useful in my shop. Here are the areas where I feel it might not be. And unfortunately, yeah, you might have to watch both videos to get the full picture on both, but it's kind of easier to not let the bias of one slide in if you're just focusing on each individual machine. But you never know.
Yeah.
I mean, I maybe not a head to head in that, but it would be interesting to address it from com marker, X-Tool F1, X-Tool F1 Ultra, the LP4, 5, whatever.
Yeah.
Which one is the best engraver for a market? And you could look at a lot of different factors that way. But to try to come up with all the scenarios everyone's going to use would be tricky.
Yeah, once we got the enclosure for the LP5, like I said, I could see comparing the two in a portability situation, because, like I said, the F1 Ultra does have some disadvantages when it comes to taking it places, because it is a lot larger. It is a lot more to handle trying to move it. But if it's going to be sitting in your shop on a tool chest or whatever, it works great. So, just scenarios and situations. You never know. But they're gonna have to beat my little F1 right now.
Couple questions in my chat here. What do you think of the Spider S1? We talked about this a little bit last week, and that's that kind of laser engraver CNC in one. And again, without getting my hands on it, my first concern on it is size, because depending on which documentation you read off their website, it's either 8 foot or 6 foot long. That's a big machine, at least a big, working area, a big platform and such. If you need it, that looks like an interesting way. Now, I'm not a huge fan of all-in-one machines that try to do, CNC routing as well as laser engraving, because it usually comes at a cost, whether that's in extra maintenance or not as good at something. So if I need a machine that big, it might be that I can only have the space for that one, and that might be why you'd look at it. But We'll see. I mean, Tyvek has come out with a number of lasers recently. Um, they seem to be doing some things different, which I like to see. They're not just trying to copy someone else's success. Um, but yeah, without getting my hands on one, I don't want to really say too much good or bad about them. But um, it's one of the few that I've seen in that size for more hobbyist use. So it's getting into a niche that some people may find is what works for them.
Yeah, they sent me Tyvek or whatever the name of the company is. Sent me a couple of emails wanting me to try the machine out, but it's kind of like I told Adam Stack when they wanted to send me that big 850 by 850 machine. Is like where we're going to put it.
Mm-hmm.
How am I going to run this thing? Because I got nowhere to put it. Uh, some of the way they've got it designed, I have my concerns with, the way the rail, like the tracks and all work. But I'm not going to trash it until I try it. You know what I mean? but it's definitely, like you said, it's going to be one of those machines, the bigger one that they sell. You're going to have a special need for that. So you never know.
Yep. Got another question over here. In our opinion, what is the best wood glue to use when doing layers?
It depends.
Um, well, I'm a big my primary wood glue in my shop is Type On 2, but I have quite a few. They have a few different styles, um, and when you're talking about wood glue, there's some minor differences between them. If you're, but the big thing is if you're doing inside versus outside, you're definitely going to want to look at something that's more exterior rated, and then you're going to get into like your Type On 3. But Gorilla Glue has their version of stuff, and there's a few others. Really, any of those EVA type glues are going to be fairly similar. It's more on how you apply it, but some of them have properties that will change things. So some of them have a little more of a yellowing to it if you aren't able to clean it up. You've got glue squeeze out, that can be an issue. Some of them have a longer cure time. Some of them have a shorter cure time. So, but overall, I pretty much just Type On 2 unless I have a special need for longer cure time or outdoor use. So hopefully, I mean, it's really just my opinion, what I've used, but hopefully that helps you out.
Yeah, I use wood glue, and if I'm doing layered, you've kind of got me hooked on CA glue for like my sign that
Yeah.
I did a few days ago. But it's because the CA glue, especially with those letters, if I do have any squeeze out, it's typically clear, and you can't see it, especially if it's just a small amount. So, as whereas used to the wood glue plus the drying time on CA glue when I'm doing letters and stuff, it's a lot faster. So yeah, you kind of switched me over to that. Now I've been trying all different kinds of CA glue to see what I like, but it all works basically the same.
I
Yeah,
mean,
Dwayne.
the only thing there with that is CA glue it's gonna cure faster, and it's more of a crystalline structure. So it creates a very quick, clear bond like that. But if you want a little more structural, soaking into the fibers, that's where using the wood glue is gonna help. But yeah, it's for most of the things we do with these smaller items, unless you need the working time, CA glue works
Yeah.
fairly well. But looking at wood glue for layering, you might want to be able to move it around a little bit, make some tweaks and adjustments. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Well,
that's where I go with it.
typically when I'm using the CA glue, it's on a painted like the sub board's been painted or whatever. So there's not going to be a whole lot of, the wood glue is just going to like sit on top of the paint and do this.
Uh-huh.
so,
Yep.
so I like it. But yeah, Dwayne says that he's 6 foot, 300 pounds, and drives a Prius, still getting over 45 miles to the gallon. One of our local makers, lady came by here a while back, and she's got one of those smart cars. I didn't realize how much room's in one of those things because I'm not a small person, but she was actually about my size as far as my height, and she had plenty of leg room in that thing. And I've been telling myself if I could find one of those things at an affordable price and just paint it black and white, put a big get it wrapped, put the Clack Shack logo on it. That'd be kind of cool. But that thing is tiny. The car is. It's about the size of my lawnmower, but it's a car.
Yeah, I have a friend who has one, and I'm trying to find the photo of me sitting in it. He let me drive it one time. The weirdest thing about those smart cars is that when you're driving it, it feels normal until you look, you turn around and look back, and there's no car behind you. I mean, like there's nothing. There's back windows right there. But yeah, I haven't driven many Priuses myself. But an interesting thing is those Mini Coopers, those little things. I got in one of those one time, and normally I hop in a car, automatically just shove the seat all the way back because I need all the room. I did that. I actually had to scoot it forward. There was too much legroom in it. I was like, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, vehicles are one of those things that you just got to pick what works for you. Me personally, I kind of have to have towing capability. Friday night, I pulled the band equipment. Spent about, I don't know, $40 on gas, pulling all the band equipment from my house to Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and back. And, I've got a little box trailer that the school owns that's slapped full of all this band equipment and stuff. And I'm pretty much the only person that volunteers to do that. So if I had a smaller car, didn't have the way of towing it, those kids would, have to be packing all their stuff in the back of the bus or whatever, I guess.
It builds character. No, I mean you definitely have a reason to, a need for that. I know so many people that have just hideously large vehicles that they complain about how they can't, they bought it because they feel they need a truck, and then they complain that their truck isn't the vehicle to haul what they. They need more interior space. That's where I'm more of.
Well, now mine's got plenty of interior space, because mine's a what do they call it now? Super Crew or whatever crew. It's got plenty of room in it. No, I can't.
It's got more room. I wouldn't say plenty of room.
Oh yeah, it's plenty. There's plenty. It's not a minivan.
No. Here's the thing. Minivan. Here's the thing. It's just like lasers. It's not the vehicle for everyone. I've had my share of trucks, and I don't need them right now. I have no. I mean, if I needed to pull,
I told Brandy about you bragging I told Brandy about you bragging about being able to throw plywood in your minivan and haul a full sheet of plywood.
It's true,
which is cool.
Doesn't matter if it rains.
If it had a little more towing capacity and 4-wheel drive, I could probably see myself driving one.
Well, yeah, they do make some 4-wheel drive ones.
Oh, I know. I've been looking. I've actually been looking.
But yeah, it's hard to get over 3,500 pounds of towing capacity with most minivans.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's my big hang up with them. Now, I could get me one of those A-Team vans. That. But then it ain't gonna be the same as your minivan. It's not gonna get that same gas mileage.
Right. No.
So that's where my dilemma is. Because I will say this: I went and picked up some materials. Was it Friday afternoon or whatever? And I mean, my old truck's getting I was getting 22 miles to the gallon. So, but now if I was gonna get a van, I'd have to get something like this, Steve.
Yeah.
There we go. I could haul plywood in that one.
Well, you see, I mean, for me, it came down to I was making all these long road trips, and I would leave the Suburban with my wife and take the minivan to the point where I'm like, you just drive the Suburban. I'm always taking the van and hauling things and going these long distances, and I didn't want to pay the gas for that. So it just it's the vehicle that's worked out for me.
Yeah.
But now we're getting into a Garage Logic live stream here, so someone needs to throw another question at us.
Yeah, we're going down a rabbit hole.
I'm trying to find this picture of me in a smart car.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think power was what they were going for when they built those. But now, like I said, I got a guy that I know that's got one that he drives to work and back. It's his work car, and it gets really good gas mileage. Yeah, that's what I was looking at, Gray. That's one of those. That's an E250 4-wheel drive. That would that would definitely do what I needed to do, and look pretty good. But I'm afraid that thing wouldn't get very good gas mileage, and I try to get as good a gas mileage as I can and still be functional. So I got rid of a truck that had 33s on it and all that, and got me one that had regular tires on it. So fuel economy is a real concern these days.
Yep. Yep. No, it's funny. I was in my younger days. I was looking at motorcycles at the local Honda dealer, and the salesman tried to sell me on how I could say how much gas I could save on the motorcycle. I'm like, I hope you don't actually use that line on people, because this is a fair weather vehicle, and you know, it's not my grocery getter. I'm not going to drive it to work when it's raining or I got to bring too much in. I mean, it's not going to save me any gas.
I was fixing to say, how many months out of the year could you ride a motorcycle up there?
The first year I had a motorcycle, 12 months. I was stupid.
Oh, Lord. I bet you look like the guys on Dumb and Dumber where they had the snot.
No, that was more because I ended up moving midwinter and I had to move it. Man, that was the sketchiest 5-mile, 20-minute ride I've ever taken.
Yeah. Hey, I can't say nothing. I did it before too. Riding on a motorcycle to the point to where you get there and you can't feel your appendages, and it's like, why in the world am I doing this? Well, thank you, Gray. Like I said, hopefully in about another 14 months, I'll be able to do a lot more without having to modify my schedule. Because I have to leave work early on Fridays to be able to get to the school in time to have the kids load everything in the trailer and drive to the game and all that. So, but next year, things won't be quite as hectic, hopefully. But if you hadn't, guys, hit that thumbs up button down there, hit the like and all that good stuff. I'm gonna be honest with you. I kind of liked. I don't know that I would mind having an all electric vehicle like the Cybertruck.
Oh,
but I would still need a gas. I would still need a gas burner, though.
Have you seen one of those in person?
I haven't seen one in person, but
I drove by one the other day. First time I've seen one in person, I'm like, oh my gosh, that is horrible.
Yeah, but it has a bit of a. It's one of those oddity things. You know what I mean? It's just something different.
Yeah, so. I think you've got enough oddity going for you. You should stick with your hybrid F-150.
But yeah, I wouldn't mind having one of those things.
All right, let's get this out of here. Sir Ray's got a question. Looking at the S1, just want to engrave and cut larger pieces of wood, not so much thicker wood. Should I go 10, 20, or 40 watt? And what's the best wood for engraving photos? All right. Well, I was actually just having this conversation with a manufacturer the other day, and I feel right now, if you're wanting to do a lot of engraving, but you're still going to be doing some cutting, 20 watt, I think, in wood, you're still going to get the quality of engravings. Now, if you're going to start doing photorealistic stuff on tile, and maybe some metal things, you'll see a benefit with going with a lower wattage. But when it comes to cutting, I think that the 20, especially the price difference between the 20 and 40, I think that's probably your sweet spot right now. What do you think?
Well, the 40, don't think just because it's a 40 watt, don't listen to all the hype, because a 40 watt still does a really good job on engraving. Is it going to be slightly, less, I guess, high resolution than the 20? Slightly. Are you going to be able to tell a difference? Probably not. So if you have the money in the budget, and the 40 watt will allow you to do the same type of engraving faster with the same result, but you will have just a little bit larger dot size. But to me, and from what I've seen from using other 20-watt machines and the S1, it's really not that noticeable. So, to me,
Yeah.
the budget would be the big determining factor in it. Is if you don't want to spend the money, the 20-watt is a good machine, but
Well, and that's where I'm going at. I think it's an extra $400 or $500 to jump from the 20 to the 400 or the 40. So, I, you know, unless budget's no concern, yeah, I would probably say that the 20 is going to do well for you. If you're going to feel like you're going to do a lot of cutting, then it's probably worth jumping up to the 40-watt. But
y'all done woke her up in there.
hey, Brandy, I told him to get a minivan. I don't know what all this truck talks about.
Yeah,
But
I can't
the
even
other
buy
the
no
other
trucks.
the other part of that question was, what was some good wood for engraving on? Anything that's got a fairly clear, it doesn't have a lot of contrasting grain. So, I like Baltic birch a lot for just general stuff, but it's actually not the best for engraving because you do get some of those, you'll see the grain more, and that does have an effect on there. If you can get some clear basswood or some clear poplar, down Clack likes his magnolia stuff that he mills up.
Magnolia.
Anything that's a fairly, and it doesn't have to be like a really white wood, that helps, but like cedar and cherry, if you get real clear sections of that, engraves really nice because it has such a high contrast. But you got to make sure that the grain is fairly clear on it.
Yeah, yeah. Poplar and magnolia they do a really good job of not pulling the grain through as much. Now you get like into the oaks and stuff like that, you're going to see the grain. You're going to hang it up.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody wanted to drop me off one of those all-electric vehicles, I'd be willing to test it for them. I'll get Brandy a cyber truck.
Just don't. Just no. No.
Get her a minivan.
I mean, if it works for her, but it might not be what she needs.
Yeah, Mark's got a point. If you do get the Rolly, you can switch it from 10 to 30. Me personally, I've never used the the 10 on mine, but you might. And Sir Ray says he's an F1 owner. I'll be right back.
Very cool. Yeah, the switchable modules you're starting to see those on more lasers, and it is a nice option, especially if you do play around with a variety of engraving, but also want some speed with cutting. So definitely take a look at some of those other options out there. The Lasermatic is definitely a good one. Atom Stack, IKEA have had some coming out. Definitely, if you're looking at those, try to make sure you're getting the V2 versions. They seem to be working a little bit better with autofocus and such, but they sometimes tend to be a little bit more. But the Lasermatic, the MK2 1030, I think that's right around $1,500. It's as long as you can fit that within about a 16 by 16 area for where you're working, it's definitely a laser to look at. It ticks a lot of the boxes, and both David and I have videos on them if you're interested in what we think. So. And Mark's saying he uses between the 35 and the 70 watt on the IKEA. So you're starting to see more of those switching modules on lasers. So definitely taking a look into if you're in the market for a laser right now. Well, we're rolling right up on 2 hours. So if anybody has any last minute questions, throw them out there.
Yeah. Well, Mark, that's going to depend on which part of the maple you get, because maple does actually there is a lot of grain in some maple, but typically what you see, like if you go to one of the hardwood stores or whatever, you're going to get more of the cleaner part of maple, but I've got a having my sawmill. Trust me, I get to see some really cool wood that you wouldn't think would be cool, like stuff like ornamental type trees, like Bradford pear. It's actually not a bad wood for making stuff out of. Now it splits and twists and all that, but if you cut enough of it, you can get a couple of nice pieces that has some pretty interesting grain. Adam Stack have an enclosure. They do have a couple of enclosures, if I'm not mistaken. I know that
Yeah,
A24 has one, but as far as any big ones, I'm not.
they have
I haven't checked lately.
a couple different styles. They have like the that Velcro together, almost cloth type one, that has the the kind of the rigid center to it. They also have, I think, what they call, is it the B3? It's more of a metal one. They're okay, but they're definitely add-ons to the laser. The S1, the closest thing they have to that is the A, their unibody A24. Um, it's smaller though, so you'll lose a little bit with that one.
Yep.
If you're honest, how often do
Uh,
you clean your laser head?
uh, I, when it starts looking dirty or it starts cutting funny. If I start noticing that my cuts are getting a little wide, of course. But I've gotten to where I've got a pretty good feel for it. I'm not gonna over clean them by any chance. That's not me. But I do keep them clean. Now the new machines, the new Atom Stacks, and even the Rolly MK2. The MK, the worst part of this machine is the fan sucks up a lot of debris. The nozzle and the lens stays clean, but the fan, you have to blow that thing out pretty regular because it breathes all that dust and stuff, and it stops the fan up really quick. The new Atom Stacks, both of these guys, the lenses stay remarkably clean. Same thing. You got to blow the dust out of them because they still suck up a lot of dust. These don't get as dusty as far as the fans as fast as that does, but that's because with these I have downdraft setups with my honeycomb. All of the smoke goes straight down through the bottom and out, whereas this, the smoke gets pulled up into the center of the back. That's the one thing that if I could like encourage Leo and him to do would be to come up with a way of getting the exhaust lower in the machine. Even if you had to do like a slit that's square that comes out into a round inlet or whatever. But because I think that would do away with a lot of the dust and stuff that gets picked up by the fan. Because I don't have that big of a deal with these two. The S1 does the same thing. The S1 sucks up a bunch of dust in the module too.
So a couple questions over here. One of them was, what do you use to blow the dust out? And so compressed air, but you want to use like a skewer or something. You don't want to have the fan spin because that actually will act like a little generator. It'll backfeed power into your controller. So usually, yeah, just stick a little popsicle stick or a skewer down there. Keep this fan from spinning. Use some compressed air, or if you can get canned air, however you want. That usually will take care of 90% of it. And so, yeah, as far as frequency, I'm kind of like you. If I notice something, or if I have been, sometimes if I notice I just ran a really smoky job, depending on the laser, some of them are easier to pop that head off. Just take a quick visual inspection, and clean it. But otherwise, yeah, it's. I don't necessarily have like I've logged so many hours, I'll do it. It's usually
Yeah.
visual indicators, something that's going to show me it's time. So, um, and then also a question over here: any suggestions on types of acrylic or vendors? I don't have necessarily a vendor per se, but you definitely want to look for cast acrylic in general. It's going to cut and engrave a little bit better. I typically will buy a multi-pack on Amazon with a few different colors. Now, if you're using a lot of one type, it might be worth looking for some local vendors. You can usually get it a little bit cheaper, and oftentimes they'll cut it down for you. But something to consider. And as far as cleaning it, the lens itself, you want to use as pure of alcohol as you can. Um, I recommend people stay away from lens cleaners in general because they sometimes have extra additives that'll leave like a slight film on there, and then that's what the laser can interact with and actually etch your glass. So I try to find a like a 99% isopropyl alcohol just for the lens, and then try to use a lint-free cloth or a swab. Typical Q-tips tend to have little cotton strands; those can get left behind and such. So just be mindful of that. Of using something like a clean alcohol and a clean cloth that's not going to leave anything on there. And if you're really crazy, get yourself some gloves as well, so you don't leave any finger residue. So.
Should one get like a clean room also?
Yes, definitely get a clean room. Get a whole Tyvek suit, an old respirator, so you sound like Darth Vader.
Hey, go all out. Somebody's asking about favorite wood stain combo. My stove covers I do in pine, and this is what I use on my stove covers, and most every other thing I make, because I love this. This stain has just enough black in it, and the way it's put together, it works really good for engraving. If you put it on there real thick, it gets down inside the engrave. I'll show you. And so you get that look right there. Oh. So that's
this is before they burn their house down by turning the stove on with that cover in it, right?
Yep. Hey, it works.
Hey, forget me not. Don't worry, I will not be getting a Cybertruck, so you can definitely jump over to my channel, and you won't miss out too much. But I understand. I understand. I'd probably feel the same way.
I don't think I can afford one of those. How much are they now? They're pretty high, ain't they?
I don't know. I think they're too much. Bill's asking, why aren't more companies jumping on the 70-watt bandwagon? This is interesting. I was having this conversation the other day Adam Stack kind of came out, and IKEA is kind of an offshoot from them. They kind of have jumped with that, and I would have expected a few people to kind of step up and match that. So we'll see. I mean, a lot of products probably coming out here around the holidays and such, and or New Year's, but kind of curious to see where that goes. Maybe they're going to try to leapfrog them and go straight to 100. I don't know.
Yeah, I'll leave it out. This is Minwax, early American. It's color number 230. And I will tell you, with this stuff, especially if you buy it in a gallon. Now, I use mine enough that I don't have too big of a problem. But it does have like a lot of black pigment in it with the brown. So I find that before I use it, I like to kind of like just swirl it around a little bit and stir up that black pigment, because if you don't, when you get down toward the bottom of the can, your wood will start getting really, really dark because the black will all be at the bottom. So I try to I don't really shake it vigorously, but just kind of swirl it around in the can like that periodically, just to make sure that the black pigment stays mixed in with the brown.
Just got a spare 80K. You can get in line for a Cybertruck.
Whew, no thank you.
Yeah, I hear you also can't resell it without paying a fee within a certain amount of time too. They had some sort of clause that some states are trying to make unenforceable, but
what?
I don't know. Huh. They're all wired up, and as far as basically it's kind of like resetting your phone. You go to sell your vehicle, you got to factory reset everything, and then so
what happens if you forget your email password? You can't crank your truck.
But anyhow, well, 2 hours 10 minutes. Any final laser questions or related?
Yeah.
Otherwise, we'll
other wood. Oh, I will show you one of my stove covers before staining. I've got these two all paneled out and ready to go. So there's the That's before stain. If I can get it. Ah! I can't see it and show it to you guys at the same time. So it's already got the stamp on the back of it. Already got a lot of the screw holes except for the handles. I just got to finish these up. This is the last two, my home sweet homes. Cool. But I got to get the sideboards cut. But I went ahead and did the panels and got them done today. So, yeah.
It's always nice having that kind of that consistent work, even if it is boring.
Oh yeah, my wife knows I hate repetitive tasks, but I also like the fact that, like right now, when a lot of other things are not necessarily at their high point, I have those to fall back on. So that's cool.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Well.
Yes, the slicker the finish, sometimes the lighter the stain. The rougher the finish, the darker the stain. Sometimes, like if you go a 120 versus a 220, a lot of times the 120 is going to look darker than the 220. I usually run 120. That's what I run on those. I do 120 grain all the way around them, and then stain them from there.
Yeah, if you're trying to go with a finish that you need to soak into the material, if you get too high of a grit, you're kind of burnishing the wood, and it actually kind of prevents that from soaking in. So, certain oil-based finishes as well as stains versus maybe your layered on polys are going to have a different effect on there. So you actually don't want to sand them too high if you're going for something that's going to need to soak in.
Jer O'Grady, I used to make those panels myself. Yes, that's a 3/4 inch glued panel, but I now buy them at Lowe's. They're 24 by 6 foot panels. I get 2 stove covers out of each panel. I used to make them, used to glue them up, do all that myself, and due to the overwhelming number of them that I have to make a year, it just wasn't feasible. So I had to come up with a way to cut down my production time. And the way that I did it was I started buying the panels already put together from Lowe's and just cutting them. I literally, for one of those stove covers, I literally make 1, 2, 3, 4 cuts. Which one is with the with a skill saw. When the panel is at 60 something inches long, I cut it to 30.5. Drop it over to the table saw, rip it down to 22.5, and then the 2 sideboards, I've got my chop saw jigged out to where I cut them to 22.5, and it's just simply shunk, and those are done. And then it's a bunch of sanding, laser engraving, gluing, and screwing, and finishing. So, but I've got it to where I can do those things in my sleep, because I don't know how many I did last year. I do probably 130 or so a year. And I've been doing them for almost 3 years. So there's no telling how many of those stove covers I've made. What in the world is that?
It's being a smart car.
Who is that guy? You're good thing they took the roof out of it. Your head looks like it. Well, no.
It's a convertible, but yeah. There's not much behind that, and yeah, that it was interesting.
Cool. Well, whoa, hey, what happened there?
Yeah, what are you doing? Oh, you know what? I should hold on. I got to show this again.
V, that was pine. If you're talking about me, or well, I say pine. They sell it as pine in Lowe's.
I fit better in that smart car than in this Piper Cub.
I hope that's a pretty good sized motor on that. Or either you're gonna be launching from a high elevation and landing at a low elevation.
Yeah, no, that was the same day. Friend brought his Piper Cub to the flight field. The same guy brought, or a different guy brought the smart car. But
Yeah, Dan Cook. I think they're only actually up to a. I think somebody said it was a 9mm. I don't think they'll stop anything bigger than 9, which that's not that impressive. Stop at 9mm. I've seen some pretty decent windshields before stop them pretty well.
all right, well, we should get out of here before it gets too late.
Oh, it's 2 hours and 15 minutes. So,
Yep.
yeah, if y'all I've actually got my energy back, so I forget. Cause for about 3 or 4 weeks there, I was just like, I was dying. But I've actually got my energy back now, so I just let time get away from me. But if you hadn't, guys, hit the like button, the subscribe button to either myself or Steve, whichever. If you hadn't already hit it. Now, if you've already hit it, then you don't have to go hit it again, because bad things happen if you hit it twice. But as always, we enjoyed it. It's fun. Good to get to hear from some of you guys, and hopefully this week I'll be able to put out some videos of something other than, like just me trying to play catch up. I do have the ASMR 2-in-1 over there, which I thought was going to be a 48 watt and a 2 watt IR, but turns out if you get it with both the IR and the blue, you only get a 10 watt. And it's been a minute since I ran a 10 watt machine, so there's a bit of a relearning curve for me. But it's the machine itself I'm pretty impressed with. I'm having to kind of tamp down my excitement for having a 10 watt again, because I'm used to having 40 and 70 and 30, and it's just going back to a 10. I have to kind of remember that, just because it's not cutting in the speeds I'm used to, that's not necessarily mean it's a bad machine. It's just a 10 watt. So, but I'm going to hopefully get another video out, or get a video out. I've done a couple of shorts on the ASMR, and then I've got, I guess that's about it. We can play with the other machines a little bit, but I've got pretty much all of my machine to-dos out of here, hopefully.
Cool.
Unless something shows up.
Cool. Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, I got to survive our semester startup. Might be a couple of long days here as we get students and faculty rolling. But after that, things calm down for me. And like I mentioned, got the F1 Ultra, just putting it through some tests. We'll have initial impressions video out on that, and then we'll roll back into some project videos. Also have the M1 Ultra, that kind of multi-function craft machine. I'm still trying to figure out everything that it can do. We'll mix that in there, but yeah, definitely trying to. I've got a growing list of projects that I'm trying to work on and share. So we'll be seeing more of that, and hopefully sparking some ideas and interest for people there as well. But appreciate everybody hanging out, chatting with us. Glad to see Clack's got some energy back, and we will we'll do it again next week.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will probably have a couple of videos this week, just, so you guys know. I definitely want to do the new material once I get through doing some more testing with it and everything. Just show you guys what it's capable of, and highlight a few files that you might want to get ready to start making as well. But anyway, thanks for stopping by. Don't forget to hit the button if you hadn't, and we'll see y'all next week.
See you, everyone.